All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are looking at a manifesto that doesn't just want to add a new chapter to the book of mathematics. It pretty much wants to burn the old book and start from scratch. This all comes from a work called Code Gray Mathematics, and it's making a wild claim that our entire understanding of math has been fundamentally wrong for 2,000 years.
I mean, wow, you really don't get much bolder than that, do you? This isn't just a suggestion or a new theory. This is a declaration of war on the very foundations of mathematics. The authors are setting the stakes as high as they can possibly go, right from the opening line.
So what we're talking about here is nothing less than a full-blown mathematical revolution. And in this explainer, we're going to break down its core claims. We're going to explore how it plans to tear down the old system, and more importantly, what it wants to build in its place. And this right here is the central problem they're trying to solve. The argument is that the math we use every day, the language that built everything from bridges to microchips, was built on what they call partial foundations. Think about it. Points that have no size, infinite lines that have no substance, prime numbers that just seem to pop up at random. The manifesto looks at these and says, hey, maybe those aren't profound truths. Maybe they're just bugs in an incomplete system. So, to really get what this revolution is about, we first have to understand what it's trying to replace. What exactly is this old dogma that they're so eager to see the end of?
According to the manifesto, these are the pillars of the old world. You've got the Cartesian grid, this almost religious worship of the circle and pi, and the casual acceptance of these strange ideas like points with no dimensions and irrational numbers that just feel weird. To the authors, these aren't elegant, beautiful axioms. They're clunky, incomplete ideas that have been holding mathematics back.
And this is where you can really see the two worldviews clash. On one side, you have classical math, which they see as static, just measuring dead figures. They call it a recipe book of separate fields, geometry over here, algebra over there, that don't really talk to each other. But on the other side, they propose gray mathematics, dynamic, alive, measuring the paths of moving things. And its goal is to be a universal grammar that connects all those fields into one single, unified system.
So if the old foundations are getting torn down, what's the new one going to be? This is the big turning point, where the manifesto stops just criticizing and actually starts building its brand new universe.
This is a huge, huge claim. I mean, for thousands of years, every kid in every school has learned that geometry starts with three things: a point, a line, and a circle. The manifesto just throws that all out. So if those aren't the basic building blocks anymore, then what is?
And there it is, the spiral. Not just as a cool shape you see in nature, but as the fundamental object, the one thing from which all of mathematics should flow. In this new system, the argument is that the universe doesn't really operate in straight lines and perfect circles. It operates in cycles, in vibrations, in spirals.
Now this is the paradigm shift. A number is no longer just a static point on a line. In gray mathematics, a number is an action. It's a movement. It's a spiral made of two things happening at once: a spin, which is its rotation, and an expansion, which is how its radius grows.
And you can immediately see how this new foundation just changes everything. A power, like when you square a number, isn't just multiplying it by itself. In this world, it's an angular acceleration. It means the spiral is spinning faster and faster. A root isn't some weird symbol. It's an angular aperture. It's about the opening of an angle. And even those famous celebrity constants like pi and e, they're no longer special idols. They're just simple, specific cases within this much bigger, more elegant framework.
Okay, I know this is all getting very abstract, but what does it actually mean for the math we all use every day? Well, let's look at how this new spiral foundation gives us some concrete, totally new definitions for concepts we thought we knew inside and out. Let's start with the circle. We're all taught that it's defined by pi, but this manifesto says that's totally backwards. The new definition gets rid of pi altogether and focuses on what a circle is. It's a curve that turns at a perfectly constant rate. That's it. In this new view, pi isn't the cause of the circle, it's just a consequence of that constant turning.
Now, this is a complete flip of how we think about prime numbers. We usually see primes as the fundamental building blocks, right? These mysterious atoms of math we have to go hunting for. The manifesto says, no, you've got it backwards. It's the non-primes, the composite numbers, that actually follow a simple, predictable, fractal pattern. The primes? They're just the inevitable gaps, the silences that get left behind in that predictable structure.
Okay, this might be the most audacious claim of them all. The whole idea that numbers like pi or the square root of 2 have these infinite decimals is, they say, just an illusion. It's a flaw in our base 10 way of writing things, not a flaw in the number itself. Gray mathematics claims that these numbers can actually be represented by short, finite, compressible codes. An irrational number isn't some endless monster. It's basically a mathematical zip file.
So as we pull back and look at the big picture, you start to see the true scale of what's being proposed here. This isn't just a new trick for solving old problems. This is a claim to a whole new mathematical universe, one built from the ground up on the simple, elegant idea of the spiral.
And, the authors are not shy about it. They compare all the previous mathematical breakthroughs, the invention of zero, the discovery of calculus, you name it. They say those were all just little sparks. This, they claim, is a new sun, lighting up the entire landscape in a completely new way. So what's the payoff? Here's what they promise. A system that finally unifies all the scattered branches of math. One that actually explains concepts like roots and primes, instead of just telling us to memorize the rules. A system that replaces old clunky constants with a universal logic and, get this, can even generate new constants for the sciences of the future. And really, it all comes down to this. The manifesto compares this whole shift to the Copernican revolution. It's a powerful analogy. They're saying we've been looking at the mathematical universe from the wrong perspective this whole time. We put the straight line and the circle at the center, when, all along, the true center, the fundamental object, was the spiral.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound question to chew on. Is math an objective truth out there that we discover, kind of like a distant planet? Or is it a language that we humans invented to describe reality? Because if it is a language, like this manifesto argues, then a completely new grammar, a new vocabulary built on spirals instead of lines, well, that might not just describe our universe differently, it might just reveal a universe we never even knew existed.